අද්විතීය 200 Mbps ස්පීඩ් එකකින් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ වේගවත්ම සහ පුළුල්තම හෝම් බ්‍රෝඩ්බෑන්ඩ් සම්බන්ධතාවය වන SLT මොබිටෙල් දේශීය ෆයිබර් බලවේගය ඔබත් අදම අත්විඳින්න.
හරිම සුදුයි.
Tonight on First at 9. This Saturday, the 1st of July 2023. Legislative approval. Sri Lanka's proposed domestic debt optimization strategy passes in Parliament with a majority of 60 votes.
As a government, we take the full responsibility for every step proposed by us.
You are stealing from the EPF 12.1 trillion for this debt restructure.
I really don't know on which ground and on which assumptions you are making these statements.
Critical. President Ranil Wickremesinghe highlights the need for completion of domestic debt restructuring for steady growth.
We have a growth agenda. We put it up for discussion with you all. We have to first get through the debt restructuring.
Problematic. Failure to restructure Sri Lankan Airlines will leave 6,000 jobs cut, warns the aviation minister. Quake strikes. 5.8 magnitude earthquake strikes off the southeast coast of Sri Lanka. Tremors felt in several areas, including Colombo.
Alliance Finance මෙතුරු රන්නයි සේවාවෙන් රන් පවුම්කට රුපියල් 1,70,000ක ඉහළ අත්තිකාරම.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දිනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟම ඇති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
This is AdaDerana First at 9 with Indivadi Amawata. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
And a warm welcome to your primetime English news service on AdaDerana 24. And we take you straight to your top news item tonight. The proposed domestic debt optimization strategy of the government was passed in Parliament with a majority of 60 votes this evening. During the vote, 122 members voted in favour of the strategy, while 62 voted against. A full-day special parliamentary session took place today, during which parliamentarians debated the debt optimization strategy to restructure local debt. According to the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka's domestic debt optimization strategy aims for manageable levels of gross financing needs, manageable levels of debt services denominated in domestic and foreign currency, and a declining debt to gross domestic product ratio to manageable levels.
The debt optimization strategy of the government was presented to Parliament this morning by Leader of the House, Dr. Susil Premachantha.
නිත්තක ඊයේ අපේ කාරක සභාවේ එකඟ වුණේ ඍජුවම මහ බැංකුවේ අධිපතිවරයා ඉදිරිපත් කරපු ප්‍රසන්ටේෂන් එක මේ යෝජනා සම්මතයේ කොටසක් විය යුතුයි කියන එක. මොකද මේ ප්‍රසන්ටේෂන් එකේ තමයි තියෙන්නේ කොයි විදියටද මේ ණය ප්‍රතිව්‍යුහගත කරන්න කියන එක. සංකල්ප පත්‍රිකාවේ එක නැහැ.
මහ බැංකුවේ අධිපතිතුමා විසින් කැබිනට් එකට ඉදිරිපත් කරපු ඒ ප්‍රසන්ටේෂන් එක ඇතුළත් කිරීමේ අපේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. ඒක ඇතුළත් කරන්න පුළුවන්. මොකද ඒක පදනම් කරගෙන තමයි අපි මේ විවාදයත් ඒ වගේම දීර්ඝ වශයෙන් සාකච්ඡා කරන්නත් පටන් ගත්තේ. දේශීය ණය ප්‍රශස්තකරණය තුල වැඩිම බර ගන්නේ මහ බැංකුව. පහුගිය සතියම කාලය ජනතාව මහා තැතිගැන්වීමකින් හිටියා තමන්ගේ තැන්පතු නැවත ලබා ගැනීමට හැකියාවක් නැති වෙයි කියලා. ඒ හින්දා අපි බැංකු පද්ධතිය හානියකට ලක් නොවන ආකාරයට මේ ප්‍රශස්තකරණය කරන්න කාරණා කිහිපයක් ගරු කතානායකතුමනි තිබ්බා. මේ සමහර අය කියනවානේ මේ EPF එක විතරයි ඉලක්ක කරගෙන තියෙන්නේ බැංකු වලට කිසිම බලපෑමක් ඇති වෙන්නේ නැහැ කියලා. දැනටම බැංකු විසින් 50%කට ආසන්න එහෙම නැත්නම් ඊට වඩා වැඩි ප්‍රතිශතයකින් බදු රජයට ගෙවීමක් සිදු කරනවා.
මේ බදු ආදායම එන්නේ ආණ්ඩුවට. නමුත් අර්ථසාධක අරමුදලට බරක් දුන්නාම ඒ නැති වෙන්නේ අර්ථසාධක අරමුදල අයිතිකාරයාගේ සල්ලි. ඒකයි වෙනස.
Honorable opposition whip doesn't understand what I'm going to tell even. So before I tell, he is trying to comment on that. වග කියන රජයක් හැටියට මූල්‍ය පද්ධතියේ අස්ථාවරභාවයක් ඇති කරන්න අපි කටයුතු කරන්නේ නැහැ. ගරු කතානායකතුමනි පහුගිය අවුරුදු කාල සීමාව ගත්තොත් එහෙම EPF එකට පොලී වශයෙන් 9%ක් 10ක් අතර ප්‍රමාණයක් ලැබිලා තියෙනවා. ඒක පවතින පොලී අනුපාතයන් තුල තමයි සිදු වෙන්නේ. සමාජිකයාගේ ශේෂයට අගතියක් නොවෙන්නත් සමාජිකයාගේ ශේෂයේ කපා හැරීමක් ඇති නොවෙන්නත් මේ සිදු කරන ප්‍රශස්ත කරන වැඩසටහන තුළ වෙළඳපොළ තුළ විශ්වාසයක් ගොඩනගනවා ගරු කතානායකතුමනි. කිසිම අවස්ථාවක ගරු කතානායකතුමනි මේ ආර්ථික අර්බුදයෙන් අපි මිදීම මිසක් නැවත ආර්ථික අර්බුදයකට යෑමේ කිසිම අවදානමක් අපේ රට තුළ නැවත ඇති වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
මහා බැංකුව අධිපතිවරයාත් රාජ්‍ය මුදල් අමාත්‍යවරයාත් කිව්වේ කිසිම දවසක දේශීය ණය ප්‍රතිව්‍යුහය ගත කරන්නේ නැහැ කියලා. එක දිගටම කිව්වා. ඕන තරම් සාක්ෂි තියෙනවා. IMF එකට ගිය එක හරි. හැබැයි එළමුණු ගිවිසුම වැරදි. ඔබතුමාලා ගහපු ඩීල් එක වැරදි. අපේ රජයක් තුල අපි කරන්නේත් IMF එකට ගිහිල්ලා මේ කොන්දේසි ලිහිල් කරගැනීමේ ප්‍රයත්නයක නිරත වීමයි කියන එක මේ අවස්ථාවේ කියන්න කැමතියි.
Owing to the premature comments, speculations and assumptions and various guessworks by the honourable members of the opposition, serious confusion have arisen among the members of the public under such disorientations. As a government, we take the full responsibility for every step proposed by us and tabled in this parliament on this matter, and clearly stand by the assurances already given by the relevant stakeholders, the understanding with the IMF, importance of restoring our debt sustainability, without which we will be stuck badly in the economic mess we were driven into by the bankruptcy pronouncement. We have to reduce the public debt to 95% from 128% at present by 2032. Our business community and households are embedded, I agree, in a burden resulting from the adverse economic toll, leading to further fiscal stance that strangle us. To reduce the level of public debt, in addition to the restructuring of external public debt, a program of domestic debt optimization was necessary to maintain the debt sustainability within affordable and manageable levels. Hence, part of the compliance to meet the debt sustainability standards pronounced following the debt sustainability analysis conducted by the IMF, a program had to be introduced, authentically determined under the subsidiary legislation that will...
In this debt restructure, the government is proposing to limit the yields to 9.1% for 16 years. The implication of this is this: even if the current EPF members put no more of their money into the EPF and just allow their current holding to grow for the next 16 years at the current yield of 13.52%, which is 3.3 trillion today, it would have grown to 25.7 trillion. Whereas at your 9.1%, it will only grow to 13.6 trillion. The loss is 12.1 trillion. You are stealing from the EPF 12.1 trillion for this debt restructure. Easily calculatable. You can hide this by saying, oh, we can't say how it will be 16 years hence. But today, from the current market value of the current average, weighted average, it's 13.52, and you are assuring 9.1 in 16 years time. Is it this that this House wants to do? That's the question.
As you know, it was very clear the central bank will do a launch on the 4th. It was very clearly specified. And also, in this same presentation, which the committee insisted that it should be included in the resolution, it very clearly has given a couple of options to the EPF and also indicated what the repercussions are going to be. So based on that, the EPF can come back to the central bank when we publish the DDO, when they do that, and decide on the options given. So based on the assumptions, Ms. Sumandiran, you can now, I think on the matter what you are speaking, I don't know whether you want inflation to be at 70%. Because if inflation is going to be at 70%, the interest rates also will be at a higher rate. So I really don't know on which ground and on which assumptions you are making these statements.
Fear of a banking crisis from a DDO is ridiculous and not correct. Banks may have to have extraordinary profits pruned as a result, and ownership structures may change. But since 36% of bank incomes are from government securities, it is understood understood that there will be constraints and pressure on the bank. But the government could find ways of getting banks recapitalized if they wanted through various schemes. They could have got even support from the World Bank and the IFC or the ADB, or recapitalize them through other means. But the government didn't do that. Why? This must be fair.
His strategic approach in handling the government's domestic debt restructuring, the country's debt burden will be reduced, the interest rate will come down, and the economy will be activated. The popular question the opposition asks is whether there is no solution other than the domestic debt restructuring. I must say there are other options. But looking at this issue, we should also consider our debt composition. Once the restructuring is done, the country is definitely going to go forward.
Following the parliamentary debate, a vote was held to approve the domestic debt optimization strategy. During the vote, 122 members voted in favour of the strategy, while 62 voted against. The domestic debt optimization strategy was passed in Parliament with a majority of 60 votes.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe reiterates that the completion of domestic debt restructuring process is critical for the growth of the economy. Addressing the annual general meeting of the Sri Lanka Institute of Directors, the head of state highlighted the importance of moving forward with the climate prosperity plan that was presented in November, adding that Sri Lanka will lose some $700 million in funding from the World Bank if the program is abandoned. President Wickremesinghe added that Sri Lanka will next month apply to join the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership trade bloc in a bid to remain competitive in the global market.
The annual general meeting of the Sri Lanka Institute of Directors was held in Colombo recently under the patronage of President Ranil Wickremesinghe.
I hope by September that Sri Lanka will be able to shed its bankruptcy status. In this country, whether you are Sinhalese, Tamil, Muslim or any other nationality, no one likes to be called bankrupt. If individually we don't like it, then collectively why do you want to have this tag on you? So let's get out of it. Last November we presented a climate prosperity plan. Now that means more resources are needed, partly by the government, partly from other investments, private investments. Then we have to go along with this program. What will happen if you go off this? You'll immediately lose the $700 million that the World Bank is due to give us. The second review will be a failure. And on this, I also had the opportunity of being in Paris when President Macron summoned the Lakers Summit, which really looks at one of the issues, the debt and climate resilience. As countries get into debt, resources for climate resilience becomes less. How do you have climate resilience and also be able to restructure the debt? And where does the money come? I mean, this is such a large amount. I don't know from where we are going to find the money, but nevertheless we have to find it. So this discussion is on, and Sri Lanka we are invited because we've been successful so far and we made a contribution, and I think Sri Lanka in future will start playing a more active role in this area of debt and climate resilience. I am confident Sri Lanka can make it with what we have got. We have a growth agenda. We put it up for discussion with you all. We have to first get through the debt restructuring. I've spoke with the cabinet. We met the bankers, the chambers of commerce, the representatives, and in the afternoon we met the trade unions. We've all suffered. We have to have a growth agenda. We have to grow big. But in growing big, there must be equity. A few people can't get rich and others be low income or just make it the middle income. So when we finish the debt restructuring, I will ask the chambers, the professions, the trade unions, the farmers and others to discuss what our social contract is going to be. If all of us contribute, then all of us must have a share of it. So that's another discussion we are planning. So this is what is there for the future. I make one request from you. Go out and tell everyone what the debt restructuring is. It's nothing to be frightened, and don't go to change it. We are in a very delicate situation and we should go ahead. I am confident that not only can Sri Lanka get out of the present crisis, but we can look ahead for a far more competitive economy. And we will be, in the next month, making an application to join the RCEP, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, that puts us into the whole Southeast East Asian markets. We talked to India about upgrading our trade agreements with them, free trade agreements. And later on, we'll talk to EU about how we are going to deepen our trade agreements with them. So we have to become a competitive economy. And this is the start of it.
Well, Parliamentary Select Committee has been appointed to control and eradicate the drug menace in Sri Lanka. The committee was announced by Speaker of Parliament Mahindayapa Abewardena in Parliament earlier today. The committee will be chaired by Minister of Public Security Derana English and is expected to identify mechanisms to be implemented for the immediate control and eradication of the drug menace in the country. The committee is also tasked with submitting observations and recommendations to Parliament. Accordingly, State Minister of Indigenous Medicine Sisara Jayakodi, State Minister of Health Sita Arambepala and parliamentarians Buddhika Patirana, Dr. Gayashan Navananda, Tusitha Indunil Amarasena or rather Tushara Indunil Amarasena, Dr. Upul Galapatti, Major Sudarshana Denipitiya, Asanka Navaratna, Upul Mahendra Rajapaksa, Thavaraja Kalei Arsan and Manjula Disanayaka were appointed members of the committee. Minister of Ports, Shipping and Aviation Nima Siripal de Silva warns of a possible loss of employment for about 6,000 attached to Sri Lankan Airlines in case of a failure to privatize the national carrier. Speaking to media in Colombo, the minister also refuted claims of a shortage of pilots at Sri Lankan Airlines. He went on to say that government plans to restructure the airline within the next 6-month period.
එයා කියන්නේ මේ ගුවන් සේවයට ගුවන් නියමුවන් මදි කියලා. ඒක සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම බොරු කතාවක්. දැන් ඉන්නවා 260 දෙනෙක්. අනුපාතය ඉස්සරටත් වැඩි ඉන්නවා ගුවන් සේවයේ. ඉතින් වැඩි මේ අරගෙන මෙතන පුළුවන්කමක් නැහැනේ, අවශ්‍යතාවයකුත් නැහැනේ.
පෞද්ගලිකකරණය සම්බන්ධව අලුත් තීරණ ගන්නවා කියන කාරණාව. මේක පරක් වුණා කියන හැඟීම ඔබතුමාට එන්නේ නැද්ද?
පරක් වුණා ඒකට කලකිරීමක් තියෙනවා. ඉතින් ඉක්මනින් කරලා අවසන් වෙන්න ඕනේ. නැත්නම් මේ ශ්‍රී ලංකන් ගුවන් සේවාව ඉදිරියට ගෙන යාමට බෑ. ඒක කොහෙම වුණොත් වෙන්නේ 6000ක පමණ රැකී ආරක්ෂා අවස්ථා නැති වෙන එකයි වෙන්නේ. අද වෙනකොට මේ ගුවන් සේවාව ඇමරිකන් එක්සත් ජනපද ඩොලර් බිලියන 1.2ක් ණය වෙලා තියෙනවා. මේ විදිහට ණය වෙලා ශේෂපත්‍රයක් තියාගෙන අපිට මේ ගුවන් සේවාව ඉදිරියට ගෙන යාමට අමාරුයි. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා රජය තීන්දුව කරා මේ ගුවන් සේවාව අපි ප්‍රතිව්‍යුහගත කිරීමක් කරන්නට ඕන. රජය 51ක කොටස් ප්‍රමාණයක් තියාගෙන 149ක පමණ කොටස් ප්‍රමාණයක් වෙනත් ආයෝජකයෙකුට ලබා දෙන්න ඕන කියලා. දැන්ට ලෝක බැංකුවේ ආයතනයකට බාර දීලා තියෙනවා මේ පිළිබඳ සම්පූර්ණ අධ්‍යයනයක් කරලා මේක මිලදී ගැනීමට පැමිණෙන අයට අවශ්‍ය තොරතුරු ලබා දීමත් ඒ වගේම ඊටාම පාරදෘශ්‍ය භාවයකින් යුතුව මෙහි කොටස් විකිණීම සඳහා අවශ්‍ය ඒ ටෙන්ඩර් documents ටෙන්ඩර් කිරීමේ ඒ කඩදාසි සකස් කිරීම සඳහා එය දැන්ට කරගෙන යනු ලබනවා. අපේ බලාපොරොත්තුව ඉදිරි මාස 6 ඇතුළතදීවත් මෙය ප්‍රතිව්‍යුහගත කළ යුතුයි.
An earthquake of magnitude 5.8 on the Richter scale was recorded today around 1,260 kilometers off the southeast coast of Sri Lanka. According to the Geological Survey and Mines Bureau, the tremor was felt in several parts of the country, including in Colombo, Battaramulla, Akurasa and Gaul areas. Senior geophysicist of the Geological Survey and Mines Bureau, Mahinda Senaviratna, meanwhile assured that there is a low chance of tsunami situation due to the quake shocks.
According to the Geological Survey and Mines Bureau, the earthquake, which occurred around 12:59 p.m. Sri Lanka time, was reported 1,260 kilometers off the southeast coast of the island, with a magnitude of 5.8 on the Richter scale. The earthquake was felt in several areas, including in Colombo, Battaramulla, Akurasa, Ambilipitiya and Gaul. The Geological Survey and Mines Bureau noted that the earthquake occurred in a region that is prone to earthquakes.
මේ භූමිකම්ප සිද්ධ වෙලා තියෙන ගැඹුර කිලෝමීටර් 10කට අඩුයි. මේ භූකම්පනය සාමාන්‍යයෙන් නොගැඹුරු වෙච්ච එකක් නිසා එවැනි භූකම්පන තරංග තප්පර කිහිපයක් කම්පන සිද්ධ වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඉහළ මහලවල් වලට ඉන්න අයට ටිකක් වැඩිපුර දැනෙන්න පුළුවන්.
එවැනි වූ කම්පන තව දුරටත් ඉදිරියේ සිද්ධ වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ සිද්ධ වෙන කම්පන වලින් අපිට හානියක් ඇති වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ලංකාවේ මේ වගේ කම්පන සිද්ධ වෙන්න පුළුවන් තව කලාප කිහිපයක් අපි හඳුනාගෙන තියෙනවා. ශ්‍රීකුණාමලේ ඉඳන් උසංගොඩ දක්වා දිවෙන අක්‍රීය භූ තලමායිම ඒ වගේම මධ්‍යම කඳුකරේ තියෙන ජලාශාශ්‍රිතව අපිට සුනාමි වගේ අනතුරක් වෙනවා නම් වෙන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ සුමාත්‍රා කෙළවරේ කම්පනයක් සිද්ධ වුණොත් එහෙම අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම අපිට සුනාමි තරංග අත්දකින්න පුළුවන් වෙනවා. නමුත් එවැනි තත්ත්වයක් මෑතකදී ඇති වෙන්න ඉඩක් නැහැ. මොකද හේතුව මේ මෑතකදී එවැනි කම්පන රාශියක් ඒ ප්‍රදේශයේ සිද්ධ වුණ නිසා.
State fuel supplier and Sri Lankan arm of Indian Oil revised their fuel prices. We'll return after this short break with the current price structure. Do stay with us.
ගොඩමඩ පෙරලි කරන බලපුළුවන් කාරයා මහින්ද්‍රා යුවෝ ටීමෝ වෙතින්. වැඩම ගොඩයි ගොඩම තමයි ස්වරාජ් ට්‍රැක්ටර් ටීමෝ වෙතින්. අපේ ගෙදරත් ආපිකෝ මෙට්‍රස් තමයි. මාදිලි රසකින් යුත් මෙට්ටලුවේ ප්‍රමුඛයා ආපිකෝ මෙට්‍රස් සැපනින්දට සැප මෙට්ට.
Welcome back. We take you to your business news. Both Sipetco and Lanka Indian Oil Company revised their fuel prices with effect from midnight yesterday. As per the price revision, 92-octane petrol is increased by 10 rupees while auto diesel is reduced by 2 rupees a litre.
State fuel supplier Ceylon Petroleum Corporation revised prices of its petroleum products with effect from midnight yesterday. According to the latest fuel price revision, a litre of 92-octane petrol has been increased by 10 rupees to 328 rupees. 95-octane petrol, meanwhile, is reduced by 20 rupees a litre to 365 rupees. A litre of auto diesel saw a 2 rupee reduction to 308 rupees. However, super diesel was increased by 6 rupees a litre to 346 rupees. A litre of kerosene meanwhile came down to 236 rupees following a 9 rupee reduction. In line with the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation fuel price revision, Lanka IOC too revised its prices. Meanwhile, three-wheel drivers' say fares will remain unchanged. Speaking at a media briefing yesterday, Chairman of the National Transport Commission, Shashi Velgama, said the annual bus fare revision, which was due today, will not be implemented.
And global oil prices settled higher, yet posted their fourth straight quarterly loss as investors were worried that sluggish global economic activity could crimp fuel demand. Meanwhile, for the first time since July 2020, U.S. energy firms this week reduced the number of oil and natural gas rigs operating for a 9th consecutive week.
Brent crude futures settled 0.8% up at $74.90, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was down 1.1% at $70.64 a barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude posted its second straight quarterly drop, down about 6.5% in the latest 3 months. Prices have been under pressure from rising interest rates in key economies and a slower than expected recovery in Chinese manufacturing and consumption. Further, signs of strengthening U.S. economic activity and sharp declines in U.S. oil inventories last week offered some support. The market was also supported by upward revisions in demand for crude oil and refined products in the United States. Demand for crude and petroleum products fell slightly to 20.446 million barrels per day in April, but remained seasonally strong. Prices also drove support from Saudi Arabia's plans to cut output by a further 1 million barrels per day in July, in addition to a broader OPEC Plus deal to limit supply into 2024. Despite the announcements of 2 rounds of cuts from Saudi Arabia, crude prices have largely remained below $80 a barrel as the market has been driven more by macroeconomic concerns. Analysts showed oil prices will struggle for traction this year as global economic headwinds linger. Moreover, U.S. energy firms this week cut the number of oil and natural gas rigs operating for a 9th week in a row for the first time since July in 2022.
Well, with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of First at 9. Thank you for watching. I'm Indiveri Amuapta. Good night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit AdaDerana.lk.